Dan Perry here with another Dan on Tech Active Directory video for Northeast State Community College.
In this video, we're going to look at setting file and folder permissions for various groups. So I've created a folder called OU-1 files, and under it a couple of folders, files 1 and 2, and a couple of documents. If I want to set permissions on a folder, I right click, go down to Properties, Security, and then Edit. And when I go in there, I can go in and set permissions. So I want to create permissions or set permissions for a group, so I'll click Add. I'll type in the name of the group. And if I don't remember the name of the group, instead I can do Advanced. And if I know what it starts with, I can do the Find Now. And I want to do the OU1 file share group. And I need to get rid of where I typed the OU because that doesn't exist. And when I do, it sets some default permissions. It's making a guess. Windows makes the assumption that you want to allow people to read and execute, list folder contents, and read the folder. It makes also the assumption you do not want them to write or modify. The basic permissions on that folder: read and execute, list contents, and read. So I can see what's in the file. I can move into the file, traverse the file, but I can't make any modifications. If I want to allow them to modify, if I click on the Allow for Modify, it adds that, but notice it also adds write. You have to have write permissions in order to modify. If, on the other hand, I give write permissions, I can have write permissions without modify. That would let me write, create new things, but not change anything that was already in existence. I'm going to go ahead and take away the write, apply that, click OK, OK again, and I've set the permissions on that folder for that group. So any user in that group, in our case, the organizational unit group, which has those users in it, would now have those permissions in that folder. If I go into the folder, I'm going to right click and just do New, and come down and just do a text document or rich text document. If I right click and look at the permissions for that file, notice OU1 file share has permissions, and they have read and execute and read on that file. They can't make any changes to the file. They can't write a file because of the permissions I gave them in the group, or in the folder rather. If I go up and change the permissions on that folder, and add modify and apply that. Now if I go back in, look at the properties and security on that one. Now notice they have inherited modify and write. So based on the folder permissions I give, when I create a file in that folder, that file will inherit all the permissions of the folder. Now I can edit the permissions on a particular file. So if I wanted to change those permissions, I could. I could also go in and make changes or add permissions to an individual file. You don't want to do that. Managing will be a major problem. If a user is a member of multiple groups, then they accumulate all the permissions of all those groups. If a particular user was a member of another group, and that group had, say, for example, full control, the user would have full control. They would have all the permissions they have based on being a member of the OU1 file share. They would also have all of the permissions based on the other group, which would give them full control. Permissions that are checked in the allow are additive. If there's nothing checked there, there is an implicit or an implied deny saying, if there's no check mark, they don't have that permission. Now, one of the problems or things you can have is if you've gone in and explicitly given a deny. So if I were to go in my case, I'm going to go back to the folder, and if I clicked deny on the modify, that automatically denies those permissions. Now I'm going to turn that off. And let's say I give them modify permissions, but I just deny the read. Well, they still have write permissions. They lose the others in this case. Some of those permissions depend on each other. They could be a member of 100 groups that had allow permissions, full control, read, list contents, but that single deny would automatically deny them or override all of the other allow permissions. It is very rare that you need to deny permissions. If you need to, do so very sparingly. The times I've had to explicitly deny are those exceptions for me where it's normally an individual user that keeps doing something stupid. Troubleshooting and finding why someone doesn't have permissions because you've denied them permission in some way, shape, form, either through their individual permissions or through a group they're a member of, can be very difficult to find and troubleshoot. So don't do that unless you absolutely have to.
Thank you for watching this Dan on Tech video for Northeast State Community College. Please subscribe to this playlist so you don't miss future videos.